Next up, speaking of power to the people, we got one of my friends, someone who's on the advisory committee, which I recommend you guys joining for the PAC. Miguel. I almost forgot your name.
Thank you, Harrison. What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you. Before I start, I'd like to take a moment of silence to honor Daunte Wright, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and everyone else that has lost their life at the hands of the police. Thank you. Next, I would like to read out loud a quote by the great American poet Amanda Gorman. Being American is more than the pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. Give it up for Amanda Gorman. To understand what past we're stepping into, we have to know our history and understand how our current police models got into place. In the South, in the 1700s, police groups were formed to catch runaway slaves. In the 1800s, in the North, police groups were made to keep immigrants away from coming into cities like Providence, Boston, New York. These models were made to oppress black and brown folks. We need to abolish these models. We need police reform now. Just yesterday, a report came out on the Providence Police Department, and I'm gonna read some data from that report. Fewer than 4% of calls in 2019 weren't for violent crimes. 24% of arrests had no category in the offense listed. In 2019, officers spent more than 1,300 hours responding to a person being annoyed. Another 1,800 hours were spent responding to complaints of loud music or parties. We don't need to send people with guns to civilian homes for loud music. Another 1,500 hours were spent on illegal parking. We don't need police officers to enforce traffic violations. Daunte Wright would still be alive today if that was the case. Another point of data from that report. The police use of force data was unable to be analyzed because the system did not accurately account data. What kind of bullshit is that? It's obvious that police departments need reform, and they need reform now. Our tax dollars are not being spent appropriately. Community residents testified and begged our city leaders this past summer for change. But our mayor and our city council responded by giving our police officers a new contract that included a 13% salary increase. The Lorza administration has the authority to immediately implement a CAHOOTS or STARLIGHT program here in Providence today. For those that don't know what the CAHOOTS or the STARLIGHT program out in Eugene or Denver are, it's a response model made up of EMT responder and usually a social worker that don't need guns or weapons. That 90% of our calls would be completely capable to be handled of such a response team. So what's next? What do we do with this energy? For those that don't know, like Dr. pointed out earlier, there's 8 open council spots, 8 open city council seats open next year in 2022. Also, the mayor is up for race. So we need to organize and mobilize and use the energy to elect people that will represent the needs of the Providence residents. Thank you, everyone.